Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Honourable Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Ministers, Cabinet Ministers, Honourable Leader of Opposition and fellow Members of Parliament. I would also like to take this time to congratulate and thank our Fiji Water Flying Fijian Gladiators for the excellent match against Wales this morning, and we look forward to more positive results in the remaining pool games, the 2022-2023 World Cup. I also like to take this time, Mr. Speaker, sir, to wish all the students, teachers, parents, guardians, and all stakeholders well as they embark on the Term 3 academic year starting this week. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to brief this August House on the upcoming Fiji National Education Summit that will be convened from September 2020 to 2022 at the Sheraton Denarau Nandi with the theme Transforming Our Education System, Building and Supporting Resilient Fijians. Honourable Speaker, sir, before I do that, allow me to provide some historical background into how the concept of gathering public opinion and views through education summits and commissions have happened in Fiji in the past. In 1969, Mr. Speaker, sir, just before Fiji became independent, the colonial government convened the first Education Commission to gather public opinion and input into an education system that will best meet the aspirations and the future of Fiji's children. One of the most transformative outcomes, I may say, of the 1969 Education Summit Commission was the agreement to establish junior secondary schools in rural areas to make secondary education much more accessible to rural students around the country, at least to Form 4 level. Junior secondary schools were established, such as Ratu Finau Junior, Andi Mawapa Junior in Lau Province, in Lomaiviti, Ngau Junior and Koro Junior Secondary School, in Bua with Nai Kawaki Junior, and the Kaunrawe with Napuka Junior, Sagani Junior, and Waturawa Koroalau Junior Secondary Schools. Other junior secondary schools were established in other provinces. Mr. Speaker, sir, I say transformative because the establishment of junior secondary schools in rural areas really transformed education delivery and put a halt to rural-urban migration for rural families because of education transition for their children as they transition from primary to secondary education, which at the time was only available in urban centers. As of today, Mr. Speaker, sir, all these junior secondary schools have expanded into full secondary status, with some conducting year 13 level of education. Mr. Speaker, sir, 30 years later, in 1999, another education commission was convened as an initiative of the Fiji Labour government at the time. The commissioners were appointed and went around the country gathering views and ideas from all segments of society and communities on what they perceive should be included in any future education plan in Fiji. Unfortunately, the work of the commissioners was disrupted by the political upheaval, and this resulted in the downgrading of the final outcome of a panel report rather than a commission review report, as the commissioners left before their report was finalized. Mr. Speaker, sir, in 2005, the SDL government decided to convene an education summit to engage with our stakeholders and the wider community, seeking their views on the future of education in the country. This resulted in the launching of the Suva Declaration on Education in Fiji, providing a policy framework for education development in Fiji. However, the political upheaval of 2006 resulted in the shelving of the Suva Declaration. Mr. Speaker, sir, consultation is key to allowing policies to be owned by our people, and so the National Education Framework that will be an outcome of the Fiji National Education Summit will ensure that education is equitable, standardized, and effective, and that it aligns with the needs of the country and its citizens. The coalition government is providing the opportunity to all stakeholders and communities who engage in education in the country to become part of the consultation leading up and during the National Education Summit. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry of Education has put together a Status of Education report that shows the status of education in the country as the coalition government came into government. The report shows huge concern areas that need urgent attention, such as the TVET subsector, the organizational structure of the ministry, the status and work conditions of teachers, the assessment system, and grant distribution, to name a few. The status report has been discussed during the pre-summit consultation and has helped guide the development of a new Fiji education policy framework that will be presented at the National Education Summit. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji being the newest member to be part of the Pacific of the Global Pacific Education, GPE, a global funding mechanism providing funds to support countries transform their education system to achieve quality education for all boys and girls. And the Ministry of Education has managed to merge the National Education Summit with the GPE processes for cost effectiveness and efficiency as they work towards similar goals. The revised cost for the Fiji National Education Summit is now set at $266,576 from the initial $250,000. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry of Education is grateful that funding provided by GPE can be utilized to fund the pre-summit activities as well as the summit itself. And we acknowledge the support of UNICEF, who are the grant agent for GPE funding in Fiji, in facilitating the release of funds to fund the National Education Summit. Mr. Speaker, sir, a wide range of stakeholders have been meeting since May 2023 to put together 7 thematic areas as the focus area for a new Fiji education policy framework. The 7 thematic areas are: number 1, curriculum and sustainable development and quality assurance and assessment; number 2, teaching profession and leadership; number 3, early childhood education, inclusive education, access, equitable, safe and healthy schools; number 4, financing of education and effective governance; number 5, technical vocational education and training, non-formal and lifelong learning; number 6, digital learning and transformation technology, integration and cyber safety; number 7, education policy, planning, research and data. Mr. Speaker, pre-summit consultations have been held in the 4 divisions: Levuka for the Eastern Division, Lambasa for the Northern Division, Suva for the Central, and Nandi for the Western Divisions. In all the consultations, a virtual platform was also established where those in remote areas were able to link in and be part of the consultations. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, sir, members of the public who wish to make presentations in person were also catered for by the consultation teams. I can say with confidence that the Ministry of Education has worked hard to be as inclusive as it could be in the pre-summit consultations to facilitate public consultation. And the responses from the public was indeed overwhelming and encouraging as we look into a future where the people are assuring us that they want to be partners in transforming education in Fiji. Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Education Program will run for 3 days from 20th to 22nd September. Approximately 150 participants are expected to participate in the summit, which includes our educational donor partners, government and non-government agencies, statutory and private organizations. And the summit program is structured to allow for this wide cross-section of stakeholders to participate and become part of a panel discussion and speakers at plenary sessions. Analysis of school enrollment rates, Mr. Speaker, sir, has shown a large number of students, out-of-school students who are of school age, particularly at the secondary school age level. And the Education Summit program provides a space for participants to discuss the issues of out-of-school students and consider solutions to the issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the case of those already in schools, some are at risk of dropping out due to limited learning pathways in the curriculum. Unfortunately, the school programs are limited and are exam-oriented, Mr. Speaker, sir. Space is also provided for teacher training institutions to be part of the discussions in regards to teacher training and development. We are also providing an opportunity for development partners to share their support towards the education sector in Fiji and consider mechanisms for closer collaboration. Mr. Speaker, sir, the main outcome of the National Education Summit is a Fiji National Education Policy Framework. document that has been developed collaboratively during pre-summit consultations to guide education development in Fiji over the next 10 years. The document outlines the main strategies in developing education in the country under the 7 thematic areas as earlier outlined. We understand the employment landscapes in the country, and through the processes of GPA funding and education sector analysis has been undertaken by a specialist, and the report has been provided evidence in the development of the new education policy framework. Mr. Speaker, sir, following the National Education Summit will be the establishment of an education commission as part of the government's policies in the development of the education sector. The intention is to bring together a group of experts to be called commissioners to look deeply into the National Education Policy Framework, which is the main summit outcome document. The appointed experts will be determined by the focus area of each thematic area in the policy framework. We will be engaging experts in areas such as the curriculum and assessment, teacher development and training, early childhood and inclusive education, technical and vocational education, education and information technology, child protection, and education in emergencies, and education policy, planning, research, and data. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry, as part of the Education Summit documentation, has also developed a draft education sector plan for the first phase of implementing the National Education Policy Framework. The sector plan further unpacks the strategies under each thematic areas. The Ministry of Education intends to implement the new Fiji Education Policy Framework in 3 phases. For each phase, education sector plans will be developed based on the strategies of the policy framework. A robust monitoring framework will be developed to ensure close monitoring and implementation will be undertaken, and assessing the continued relevance of the strategies as defined in the policy framework. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry will continue to engage the thematic area task forces in monitoring processes of implementation of the policy framework to continue that strong leadership role of our education stakeholders and continue to build a strong sense of ownership of the policy framework. We believe, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is important in transforming education in the country and to efforts in building resilience in the education process in the face of pandemics and disasters. Let us learn from the recent global events and through our education system build resilient Fijians who are able to survive and thrive in whatever situations that they encounter. In closing, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to thank our individuals, regional and international agencies who have worked with us and have been part of our journey in preparing towards the Fiji National Education Summit. Thank you, and we now will have Mr. Speaker, sir.